Nobody expected it to be a hit, or the singer to become a star. But this emotionally raw powerhouse of a voice comes along just once in a generation.
So it sometimes feels like I don't have a choice. This is what was given to me and this is what I'll continue to work with and do.
We did about maybe 6, 7 takes. Not because we needed to, just because I loved hearing her sing, actually.
Don McGlashan wrote it. Hollie Smith was just the hired voice. But now record companies are fighting to sign her up. But they'll have a battle on their hands. Bathe in the River showcased this huge young talent, but Hollie Smith is determined to make it on her own.
What I'm trying to do is to prove myself as a songwriter and prove myself as a musician. And now I'm famous for that song. It's like, damn it, I want that to be my song.
So who is this middle-class Pākehā girl with the tattoos of a Pacific princess and the voice of a black blues diva?
What do you feel when you're singing?
Peace, normally.
Peace.
Peace, and every time I sing those songs, it's going to be different, depending on how deep I choose to jump into that at the time.
She's a natural. Music runs in her veins.
So yeah, that's Granddad, and it's my dad.
Her mother, Joss, never doubted Hollie would follow in their footsteps, even before she could talk.
She couldn't sing words, but she'd hum and, you know, make noises, but it was always with the music.
And right from the beginning, Hollie Smith knew which music.
The artist that made me want to do it was James Brown. There was This Is a Man's World, which is still one of my all-time favourites. And I was just like, ooh, I want to be a big black blues singer when I grow up.
She has the voice like no other.
Like an older jazz singer, an old woman jazz singer that had a, 40-a-day cigarette habit.
I've never heard another Kiwi voice. I mean, she's up there with Aretha Franklin and people like that.
But it could have been Enya. This is also the voice of Hollie Smith at 14, although today she finds it all a bit embarrassing.
Well, I was just reluctant in every sense of the word, really, because it wasn't really my thing.
But it is her stepfather, Steve McDonald's thing. His Celtic music sells well in the United States.
For all of my day.
He writes and sings all his own work. And when 13-year-old Hollie sang backup vocals on one of his CDs, the Americans loved it.
They said, who's that girl singing on there? We want a piece of that. That's just great.
So Hollie made an album of Steve's music. It made a lot of money.
It sold 30,000 copies in America. And people I still get emails on my fan club saying, when's Hollie going to do another Celtic album?
But Hollie never has. And then, at the age of 17, she got a second international offer, in America again, and where again, she turned it down.
I was like 16 in a room filled with, 45-year-old musicians who'd been doing it for the last 30 years.
Hollie recorded an album of her own songs, but she didn't like what the Americans did with it.
I just felt very intimidated by it, and because I wasn't that musically experienced, I couldn't express to them how I wanted it to sound, and it was all very poppy and weird and crazy and quite hideous.
So Hollie pulled the plug, and the American album was never released.
You never know, they might even still release it, They might wait until the right moment and just release it,
The secret Hollie Smith tapes.
Yeah. The secret. Oh, God, I didn't even think about that.
But it was an experience that colours everything she does now.
It's dark enough to see
from that point I knew that I had to learn how to do my music and write all the parts and arrange it all. There's no other option.
I think that showed at 17, 18 that, you know, she had the balls to stand up for herself and not do it for fame and fortune.
But for some time after that, Hollie stopped making music at all.
I was sort of quite lost in Auckland. I sort of lost my way a lot up there. I felt very excluded and very alone. And I was drinking far too much and, you know, drinking every night and just not in an overly kind of dramatic way, but just didn't really have any sort of direction at that point.